There's a particular kind of evil that wears a tuxedo to the opera, that sits on museum boards and endows university wings, that transforms mass death into philanthropic opportunity. When your family name decorates the Metropolitan Museum of Art while your product kills more Americans than the Vietnam War, you've achieved something remarkable, weaponizing respectability. The Sackler family spent decades perfecting this alchemy, transforming oxycodone into OxyContin, addiction into profit, and suffering into $13 billion. Their pharmaceutical company didn't just sell painkillers, it engineered an epidemic, training doctors to prescribe addiction, rewarding sales representatives for maximizing dosage, and watching Americans die while cashing checks that funded temple wings and gallery renovations. In today's episode of Old Money Thrones, we expose how three Brooklyn-born brothers built a pharmaceutical dynasty on deception, how their descendants turned one drug into America's deadliest crisis, and how bankruptcy protection allowed them to keep billions while museums frantically sandblasted their name from marble walls, proving that sometimes the most dangerous criminals are the ones who know exactly which charities to fund. Brooklyn, 1930s, Isaac and Sophie Sackler's grocery store barely fed the family. Three sons crowded into tenement housing. Arthur, born 1913. Mortimer, 1916. Raymond, 1920. Jewish immigrants from Galicia and Poland, survivors of anti-Semitism that would shape their hunger for acceptance. American medical schools maintained Jewish quotas, forcing Mortimer and Raymond across the Atlantic to Scotland for education they should have received at home. This rejection planted seeds. Become so wealthy, so philanthropic, so culturally indispensable that nobody could ever exclude you again. Make your name synonymous with prestige rather than persecution. Arthur attended New York University Medical School. His brothers studied in Glasgow before completing degrees at Middlesex University in Massachusetts. All three became psychiatrists, working together at Creedmoor Psychiatric Center in Queens during the 1940s. They pioneered pharmaceutical alternatives to lobotomies and electroshock therapy. Genuinely progressive work. Early civil rights activism included fighting for blood bank integration. The Sacklers initially positioned themselves as medical innovators solving problems. This reputation would provide perfect camouflage for what came later, but Arthur possessed talents beyond psychiatry. While working at Creedmoor, he moonlighted at William Douglas McAdams' advertising agency, revolutionizing pharmaceutical marketing. Before Arthur, drug companies marketed to pharmacists. Arthur understood the leverage point. Doctors. Convince physicians to prescribe and patients become captive consumers. He pioneered direct-to-physician advertising, creating campaigns that made medications into cultural phenomena rather than medical tools. 1952, the brothers pooled resources to purchase Purdue Frederick Company, a small pharmaceutical manufacturer specializing in earwax remover and laxatives, unglamorous products, steady revenue. Arthur's advertising genius transformed the company's trajectory while he continued building his separate empire. His masterpiece arrived in the 1960s, Valium. Working for Hoffman La Roche, Arthur crafted marketing so effective that Valium became America's most prescribed drug between 1968 and 1982. Mother's little helper, the housewife's salvation, anxiety repackaged as medical condition requiring pharmaceutical solution. The Rolling Stones wrote songs about it. Arthur made fortunes from it. More importantly, he created the playbook. Convince doctors that conditions are undertreated, that your drug is uniquely safe, that prescription frequency should increase dramatically. This formula would later kill hundreds of thousands. Arthur simultaneously built an art collection rivaling nations, Asian antiquities particularly. Donations flowed to museums desperate for funding. The Smithsonian's Arthur M. Sackler Gallery, wings at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Oxford University facilities, Harvard buildings. Everywhere Arthur's philanthropy touched became branded with the family name, respectability purchased in marble and bronze. By his 1987 death, Arthur had achieved total cultural integration, medical pioneer, advertising genius, Philanthropic legend, his brothers bought his one-third stake in Purdue Frederick for over $22 million. Arthur never saw OxyContin. His reputation would be posthumously destroyed by association, though his descendants insist he died before the poison fruit ripened. 1991, Mortimer and Raymond reincorporated as Purdue Pharma, focusing exclusively on pain management. Raymond served as president until 1999, when his son Richard assumed control. The company's board included Raymond's son Jonathan, grandson David, and wife Beverly. Mortimer's daughter Kathy joined. The family controlled everything. Private ownership meant no shareholders demanding accountability, no board independence, just Sacklers making decisions that would kill. Purdue's researchers had been working on opioid delivery systems since the 1980s. They understood that sustained-release formulation could deliver massive doses over extended periods. In 1995, they received FDA approval for OxyContin, oxycodone in slow-release tablets containing up to 160 milligrams, twice as potent as morphine. The coating supposedly prevented abuse by spreading release across 12 hours. This premise became the foundation of Purdue's entire marketing strategy. And it was a lie they knew about from the beginning. 1996, OxyContin launched with unprecedented promotional aggression. Purdue spent $200 million in 2001 alone, between 6 and 12 times what competitors spent on similar drugs. The company hosted over 40 pain management conferences at resorts in Florida, Arizona, California. All expenses paid. 5,000 physicians, pharmacists, and nurses attended these educational symposia. Purdue recruited attendees into a national speaker bureau, paying them to evangelize OxyContin to peers. Studies prove such pharmaceutical junkets influence prescribing patterns, even though attending physicians insist they remain objective. The luxury trips worked exactly as designed. Sales representatives received prescriber profiles on individual physicians, detailed breakdowns of what drugs each doctor prescribed, how frequently, at what dosages. Purdue identified the highest volume opioid prescribers and deployed sales teams to push them higher. Internal memos screamed with exclamation points, "Dedicate 70% of your time selling OxyContin." Another, "We are selling OxyContin 70% of the time." The punctuation conveyed desperation, urgency, quotas that demanded maximization regardless of patient outcomes. The company created Region Zero, a target list of doctors prescribing massive OxyContin quantities. Despite knowing the drug was addictive, sales reps were directed to get these physicians to prescribe even more. Doctors regularly visited by reps proved 10 times more likely to prescribe Purdue opioids to patients who eventually overdosed and died. 10 times. The company tracked this correlation and accelerated rather than halted the practice. Purdue cultivated academic partnerships to legitimize their marketing. In 2002, they created the Massachusetts General Hospital Purdue Pharma Pain Program after a company employee noted hospital doctors come to us with any questions, and that MGH has significant influence through most of New England. Purdue organized symposiums in the hospital's famous Ether Dome, site of surgery's first public anesthetic demonstration, weaponizing medical history to sell addiction. The Sacklers renewed this deal in 2009, contributing $3 million for continued influence over pain management training. Tufts University received similar attention. Purdue made one employee an adjunct associate professor in 2011. Company-written materials were approved for teaching medical students in 2014. When addiction reports emerged from Maine, Purdue used Tufts's residency program there to find doctors to attend an event where Purdue could defend its reputation. Converting medical education into damage control, sales representatives distributed OxyContin-branded merchandise, fishing hats, plush toys, luggage tags, music CDs titled "Get in the Swing with OxyContin." constant branded reminders that normalize the drug's presence. The company offered savings cards to patients, knowing that longer prescriptions meant increased addiction likelihood, but longer prescriptions also meant higher profits, so Purdue pushed the cards aggressively. The marketing centerpiece was a single sentence on OxyContin's FDA-approved label. Delayed absorption as provided by OxyContin tablets is believed to reduce the abuse liability of a drug. Sales reps weaponized this phrase, convincing doctors OxyContin was safer than morphine, less addictive than immediate-release opioids. Physicians mistakenly believed morphine was stronger when oxycodone is actually twice as potent. Internal emails reveal senior Purdue executives discussing this misconception. We need to be careful not to correct this mistaken assumption by the doctors. We need to let them keep thinking that oxycodone is actually weaker. Deliberate, calculated, lethal. Purdue initially marketed OxyContin for cancer pain, the traditional opioid use case. But cancer patients represented limited market. Raymond Sackler and other executives made the pivotal decision: expand indication to all chronic pain, back pain, arthritis, headaches, conditions affecting millions of Americans who would require prescriptions for years or decades. This decision transformed OxyContin from niche cancer medication into mass-market phenomenon. Sales exploded. $48 million in 1996, over $1 billion by 2000, $35 billion in cumulative revenue by 2018. The Sacklers extracted over $10 billion from Purdue between 2008 and 2019. Much of it transferred offshore as legal scrutiny intensified. Forbes estimated family wealth at $13 billion by 2016. They'd become one of America's 20 wealthiest families, built entirely on a single drug. But Americans were dying. Drug abusers quickly learned that crushing OxyContin's time-release coating delivered the entire massive dose immediately. Snorting or injecting the powder produced intense morphine-like highs. Heroin by prescription. The overdose rate soared. By 2001, OxyContin had become a leading drug of abuse. By 2004, it dominated. The crisis metastasized from Appalachia through rural America into suburbs and cities. Mothers, fathers, children. Nobody was immune. Journalists began investigating. Barry Meyer at the New York Times sounded alarms as early as 2001. If authorities had listened then, tens of thousands might still be alive. But Purdue deployed its resources, legal teams, public relations firms, political connections, to minimize scrutiny. When concerned reports reached company leadership, they ignored or suppressed them. 2007. The reckoning began. Purdue Frederick Company and 3 executives pled guilty to criminal charges of misbranding OxyContin by claiming it was less addictive than other opioids. The fine, $634 million. Massive by pharmaceutical standards. Pocket change compared to profits. The company admitted that between January 1996 and June 2001, certain Purdue employees improperly marketed and promoted OxyContin as less addictive, less subject to abuse and diversion, and less likely to cause tolerance and withdrawal than other opioid pain medications. Certain employees, not the Sackler family members who sat on the board, collected billions and approved every marketing strategy. The executives who pled guilty avoided prison. Purdue's statement took full responsibility for its misconduct, but the Sacklers remained untouched. Protected by corporate structure, insulated by wealth, shielded by lawyers who understood that American law struggles to hold executives criminally liable for systemic harm. The company continued selling OxyContin. Competitors, emboldened by Purdue's success, flooded the market with generic opioids. The number of oxycodone pills manufactured rose from 2.5 billion in 2006 to 4.5 billion in 2012, an 80% increase. Purdue had created a market. Others simply exploited it. 2018, the walls closed in. Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey filed suit directly naming 8 Sackler family members: Richard, Teresa, Kathy, Jonathan, Mortimer, Beverly, David, and Eileen. Court documents revealed internal communications showing family members personally directing marketing strategies, demanding aggressive sales tactics, and extracting billions while Americans died. Richard Sackler, who'd overseen OxyContin's development, had written after the drug's launch, "The prescription blizzard will be so deep, dense, and white. A blizzard that buried hundreds of thousands." Other states joined. By 2019, over 1,500 lawsuits targeted Purdue and the Sacklers. Every state, countless municipalities, Native American tribes, all demanding accountability. The opioid epidemic had killed over 400,000 Americans since OxyContin's 1996 launch. By 2019, that number exceeded 500,000, more than the entire Vietnam War, more than car accidents. An entirely preventable catastrophe manufactured for profit. September 2019, Purdue filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, facing over 2,600 lawsuits. The bankruptcy proceedings generated over $40 trillion in creditor claims, a number almost incomprehensible. The company pled guilty to federal conspiracy and fraud charges in 2020, admitting it knowingly and intentionally conspired and agreed with others to aid and abet doctors dispensing medication without legitimate medical purpose. But bankruptcy provided the Sacklers an escape route. The 2021 settlement proposal offered them comprehensive immunity from future opioid lawsuits in exchange for paying $4.3 billion over 9 years. They would forfeit Purdue ownership, but keep the majority of their fortune, and nobody could ever sue them again. Connecticut. Massachusetts and several other states objected furiously. How could non-bankrupt billionaires use corporate bankruptcy to shield themselves from personal liability? The case wound through appeals. December 2021, District Court vacated the bankruptcy order, agreeing with dissenting states. The Sacklers weren't entitled to blanket immunity. Negotiations resumed. The Sacklers increased their offer to $6 billion. Museums began removing their name. July 2019, photographer Nan Goldin, who'd overcome her own OxyContin addiction, led activists in Louvre protests. They scattered prescription bottles and unfurled banners. "Take down the Sackler name." The museum quietly removed Sackler signage from its Oriental Antiquities wing, claiming a policy of 20-year naming rights rather than admitting shame. The Metropolitan Museum of Art followed in December 2021. 7 exhibition spaces stripped of Sackler identification, including the massive wing housing the Temple of Dender. Author Patrick Radden Keefe, whose book Empire of Pain had become the definitive Sackler exposé, visited the museum that day. The names were already gone. Physical evidence of the family's cultural integration erased in real time. The Guggenheim dropped the Sackler Center for Arts Education. Tate Museums in London announced they'd refuse further donations. The Smithsonian, Harvard, Oxford, Columbia, institutions worldwide faced pressure to dissociate. Some complied, others cited contractual obligations, legal complexities, or noted that their buildings were named for Arthur, who died before OxyContin existed. His descendants emphasized this distinction repeatedly, insisting Arthur's branch hadn't profited from opioids. The New Yorker and other publications issued corrections acknowledging this separation, but public rage rarely distinguishes between Sackler branches. The name itself became toxic. Universities scrambled to rename facilities. Tufts removed the Sackler name from its Graduate Biomedical Sciences School, Medical Education Center, Research Laboratory, and multiple endowed funds. The Massachusetts Attorney General had argued Purdue promoted OxyContin using Tufts connections, essentially weaponizing academic prestige to legitimize addiction. The university wanted distance. June 2024, the United States Supreme Court rejected the $6 billion settlement, ruling that bankruptcy law doesn't permit shielding non-bankrupt individuals from lawsuits. The decision forced renegotiation. States held stronger position now. Public outrage had intensified. The Sacklers needed settlement more than ever. January 2025, new agreement announced. $7.4 billion over 15 years. No blanket immunity. Creditors could opt out of releasing claims against the Sacklers in exchange for smaller distributions. Over 99% of voting creditors supported the plan. Out of 54,000 personal injury victims eligible to vote, only 2 to 18 voted no. Many didn't vote at all. Exhaustion, perhaps, or recognition that this represented the maximum extraction possible from people who'd already offshore billions. November 2025, bankruptcy judge Sean Lane approved the settlement. Purdue would become Noah Pharma, a public benefit company developing addiction treatment and overdose reversal medications. The Sacklers would lose Purdue ownership, forfeit ability to sell opioids anywhere globally, and face prohibition on adding their names to institutions via charitable contributions. Their reputation? Destroyed. Their fortune? Largely intact. The settlement money would fund addiction treatment, prevention programs, and compensation for victims. Roughly $850 million designated for individuals and families. The rest for state and local governments. No mechanism existed for tracking spending effectiveness or ensuring funds actually reached victims. Bureaucracy would consume millions, but $7.4 billion was better than nothing, better than endless litigation while the Sacklers hid money in offshore trusts. Documents subject to attorney-client privilege would become public, over 30 million pages revealing Purdue and Sackler internal communications. Investigators would finally see the full scope of conspiracy, but the Sacklers would never face criminal charges. Bankruptcy Judge Lane explicitly stated that proceedings don't relieve parties of criminal liability, but acknowledged prosecution remained beyond his jurisdiction. The Department of Justice could theoretically pursue cases. Nobody expects they will. Former U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara has noted that corporate hierarchies make indicting wealthy individuals nearly impossible. You can prosecute the company, but proving individual executives possessed criminal intent, knew specific facts,